There we go. I'm a little bit more comfortable now. All right. What is going on here? All right. We live? I think we're live. Yes, we're live. Awesome. Perfect. All right. So if y'all are ready, I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Sorry, I've been a little in and out with the podcast the last few weeks. We had a severe ice storm come this week, and so it kind of made it hard for me to do any podcasts this week, but I was able to get one in before the week ended. We are going all the way out to Adelaide, Australia. You know, we have had many guests from Australia on, but I don't think we've ever had anybody from Adelaide, which is kind of funny because if any of you longtime listeners remember the virtual concert we did in 2020, I unintentionally got myself banned from Adelaide somehow, which was very funny. It was a music group page, just real quick, music group page told me that I was not welcome in Adelaide for promoting this thing. I don't know. It's very confusing story, but very funny in the same time. But anyways, we have Ella and Sienna with us here today. How's it going today?
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Really excited to sit down and chat with you. We've been chatting a little bit over the last week to try and get this book. So I'm glad we were able to make it work. I know the time difference is always a little hard to pull off, but you know, it's we're able to make it work. So
yes, that's good. It's great.
Awesome. So first off, thank you so much for taking time to sit down and chat with me. For anybody that's kind of getting to meet you for the first time, what's kind of the background story? What got you into music?
Oh goodness. Well, I guess as sisters, we always sung together. I think that's just a thing that most siblings do when you're quite younger. And Sienna especially had this idea. She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a rock star." Like from like 2 years old, she would tell mom and like our whole family, "I'm gonna be a rock star." So she really had this passion for performing. But it wasn't until we were actually both in our teens that we started music. We got singing lessons together, and I started learning guitar, and kind of just went from there, really.
Awesome. And there's a 4-year difference between Ella, you're 20, and Sienna, you're 16, right?
Yeah. It's about 3.5, I think.
3.5. Sienna's almost 17.
Yeah. Awesome. And so y'all been playing together for a good little bit, or you'd always been playing together. When did you kind of decide, hey, we should take this and like play shows and pursue this as a career?
Yeah, well, we started busking how long ago now?
6 years?
Probably like 6 years ago. That was kind of our first kind of performing thing. Our singing teacher really pushed us to go out and do some busking to build up our confidence. And then from that, we did that for probably about a year. And then we got into doing some pub gigs and just little things around Adelaide. And then we kind of branched out to doing music venues and stuff. And we got a band together. And yeah, we've traveled interstate and done a couple festivals. So yeah.
Awesome. And your music is a real family adventure. From what I've seen on YouTube through the your time on The Voice, some of the videos that I watched, your mom is your manager and your dad is your
Yeah, well, our family is actually not musical, so it was kind of really random for Sienna and I to just kind of have this passion for music. And our family is so supportive, and we are so lucky and so grateful because mum and dad have just kind of learnt everything on the fly with us. And just kind of, yeah, so dad's like our roadie, and he takes all the gear and he does our sound at gigs, and mum, we call her our mummager because she helps us like book the gigs. And yeah, when we were on The Voice, they really like honed in on that little family band aspect, I guess.
Which, you know, obviously I wasn't planning on jumping into The Voice this quickly, but we'll go there. You know, just at a show like that, it's one of those things where they find something that they think is unique, and it's like, oh, we're going to just sit on, even if it's like the smallest, most minute part of your career or your life, if they think it's unique, they're going to sit there and just hone in on it. And yeah, so
Yeah, absolutely. And
definitely.
you kind of expect that. Like, when we went into it, we kind of knew like it's a TV show, they're going to
yeah,
look for a story. But it's quite funny. Like, people ask Sienna and I all the time, like, "Oh, what do you do together as sisters?"
yeah,
And we're like, "Music." And they're like, "Well, what do you do?" Especially like the people, the producers on The
yeah,
Voice were like, "Well, do you cook together? Do you like exercise together?"
Yeah.
And
yeah,
we're like, "Just music. Like, we have our own
Yeah.
lives apart from that."
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
that's
think of ourselves as opposites.
Yeah.
that's fair. You know, Ella, it was quite funny watching the everything that there was on the internet during your time on The Voice. I think it was during the blinds or you had made a comment about um not wondering if you were actually good at singing. And like I don't know why that stuck out to me, but it was just one of those things where it's like thinking back on it now, like you go through life just doing what you love and everybody telling you that you're not saying that you're bad, but you know, you're just like doing your thing, you doing what you love, and then you finally get yourself to this point where it's like, oh, hey, I must be pretty good if I made it, because The Voice isn't like American Idol or Australia, you know, like one of those shows where they'll bring bad people on just because it's funny. Uh, the Voice brings on good people.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was kind of interesting to watch you have that epiphany where it's like, wait, am I good? And yeah, so that, yeah, so
I
that
think, yeah, it was definitely a weird experience, and Sienna and I are both like very down to earth
mhm,
people. We don't like I mean, no one likes to hear the sound of their own voice, but as singers you kind of have to, and we
yeah,
still struggle with that, and it's like we don't like it, and we know that we've come so far, but just kind of, yeah, coming to realize that we have to feel okay with where we're at, and not be too harsh on ourselves. And
mhm,
yeah, it was a very weird moment having to do those interviews.
Yeah.
because you know, like we said, they're gonna just find that one thing to hone in on, and it's like, oh, do I say that? No, yeah, yeah. So,
Mhm.
so before The Voice, so just correct me if I'm wrong. Did you started releasing music right around the time you went on The Voice, right?
Yeah, I think was it after or before? We had this kind of time
Just
period where we're
before
not allowed to release music yet. So I think
Yeah.
we released our first single
March.
before The Voice, which was like
Yeah,
March.
so we filmed the show first,
Mhm.
like December, January, and then kind of just after we filmed it, we went to record our first single,
Yeah.
released that one in March, and then the show aired in April.
Okay, gotcha. Because I was sitting there trying to make sense of it all, and obviously on Spotify, it doesn't always tell you like the exact dates on how everything played out, and then obviously on The Voice, they pre-record a lot of this, so you know, it was one of
Yeah.
those deals where it's like, were you releasing music? But no, that makes a lot of sense. And so, was it always like what came for? Were you wanting to release music before you got on The Voice, or was it you got on The Voice and then it was just kind of like, oh, hey, we should start releasing music?
Yeah, we've always wanted to release music. It's always been in the plans. And
Mhm.
when we got on The Voice, we were like, oh, this is great for exposure. We should really
Yeah,
make the most of this.
yeah,
And we've been songwriting for practically our whole life. So we had some songs that we'd written and we really liked. So the first single that we released, I think I wrote it in about 2020.
Yes.
okay,
So we'd had it for a while and we were like, oh, we just really want to record this. So we went to the studio and we worked with a producer named Matt Fell in
mhm,
Sydney, and he just really brought it to life and we just loved it and loved
Yeah.
working with him. So yeah, it turned out really great.
awesome. And that was going to be my next question, because obviously everybody knows what happened in 2020 in Australia.
Mhm.
I think you guys kind of got the brunt end of the stick a little bit, you know, as far as like the lockdowns and whatnot. How did that kind of affect the music? Were you still playing at that time, or obviously lockdowns kind of being lockdown, were you still trying to find a way to play?
Yeah, I mean, in Adelaide, we were a lot better than like Sydney or Melbourne. They
Okay.
kind of, it was really harsh for them.
Yeah.
We actually only had two little lockdowns.
Okay.
It was mainly just restrictions that kept us from playing gigs. Everyone was very kind of I don't know, didn't want to put anything on for fear of it being cancelled or something, an outbreak happening. So I think we ended up having about 8 to 12 months of gigs cancelled
Oh,
in 2020, which was pretty rough. But Sienna and I actually started up a little Facebook lockdown live stream
yeah,
series, because I feel like a lot of people needed help through that time. Like when you're stuck at home, especially, if you're living alone, anything like that, and you just feel kind of trapped. We felt that it was a great way to still kind of connect with people and still get music out there. And even like they were totally free shows, and we, had a lot of fun. We played requests for people, and yeah, that was something I guess we used to kind of brighten the mood through that
yeah,
time.
for sure. It was a hard time for everyone. And, the fact that there's musicians out there that still found a way to kind of make it work. And
Mhm.
there's still musicians that are kind of doing what they did during lockdown because they did it for a year and a half, 2 years straight while everybody was in lockdown. And then it just kind of became normal to them, doing live streams and all this stuff, which is really cool. Um, so even before the lockdown, obviously you were playing together and writing and all that stuff. Let's take a step way back to the beginning. Like when you first, who introduced you to music in general? Like, was it Ella? Were you kind of the catalyst for Sienna, or was it vice versa, or was it the parent who kind of introduced you to music?
Ah, that's a very good question. I think one of the most pivotal moments that we were like, oh my God, like music is so amazing is when we went to our first concert, which was a Pink concert. Our mum absolutely loves Pink, so we'd listen to her in the car and stuff. And she actually went to the show in Adelaide and she's like, oh, you guys can't come, like it's not appropriate
Because
for you.
we were quite
Yeah,
young at
how
the
old
time.
were we? Yeah, we were pretty young. And then she watched the show and she came back and she's like, okay, we've got to go to Melbourne. You guys have got to watch this because it's just amazing. So
We drove
we,
8 hours.
yeah,
Dad drove us 8 hours. We went to the concert, stayed overnight, and then 8 hours home. And it was one of the best experiences. It was so
Yes.
eye-opening. And yeah, I think a lot of our music, like it kind of came from mum and dad. Like we do a lot of like kind of country pop
Yeah.
stuff. Like we don't really like to put a genre on what we
Yeah.
do because it's all over the place. And
Yeah.
I think the reason that it's quite all over the place is because mum and dad listen to a lot of different stuff. So obviously we had like Pink. Sienna and I have loved Taylor Swift since we were really young, and then dad had this whole like grunge, like he loved Nirvana
Yeah.
and
Phillies.
foods, everything kind of along those lines, and it's all kind of just mashed together in our love for music, I guess.
Sure. And it's awesome that like nowadays it seems like a lot of musicians are pulling from so many different genres, whether it's, like Pink and the like alt rock scene thing that she did there, or if it was Taylor Swift or the grunge scene and Nirvana, just like all these different styles, and they're kind of meshing together, and musicians just kind of not letting these labels define who they are as musicians and just kind of being what they want to be. And if, okay, this album, we're feeling a little bit more hard rock or punk rock, cool, fine, whatever. Or if this album, we're feeling a little bit more country, I think that's like a really awesome thing that's kind of going through music right now is like this style bending.
Yeah,
Definitely. It's so
definitely.
important. And it's important, like, as an artist, to be able to feel free to explore other
Yeah.
genres. Like, I know sometimes you can feel stuck in your, like, I identify as this genre, and I have to stick there because that's what people expect from me. But Sienna and I definitely, we just write, and whatever comes out, comes out. And yeah, we're happy to completely go wherever and see where it goes. And sometimes it might not work out, but definitely with our next record after the one that is going to come out in March, it's going to be some different sounds.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So speaking of new music, you have a new single dropping Friday, right? Or is it Saturday? I don't even
Yes, Friday, yes.
Friday. I was sitting here, I was like, wait a minute, math, 10th. What is 10th?
10th.
So you got to drop it on Friday. Kind of tell us the background of this single. What's the name of it? Like what's the story behind it, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, this one's called Don't Call Me. I think I started writing this one probably end of 2021, do you think?
I don't know.
don't
It's
know.
one of the more
It-
recent.
Yeah, it's one of the more recent ones that's coming out on our EP that's dropping in March, and this one's definitely got more of a country sound. And when we came into the studio with Matt Fell when we recorded this one, we really kind of had an idea of what we wanted it to sound like. We wanted it to kind of be punchy, full of energy.
Yeah.
And one of the reference tracks that we had was Maddie and Tay, who are a country duo in the States. So we really wanted it to have that kind of energy. And yeah, we're pretty happy with how it turned out. It's really about empowerment and not letting anyone tell you what to do and not letting anyone kind of take advantage of you, I guess.
Nice. The fact that you brought up Maddie and Tay, I feel like that's a really, like, people really have to be into music to know who Maddie and Tay are. Like, that they're not as wide known as some of the other country artists out there. So that
Yeah,
the fact that you dropped that name, I was like, oh wow, okay, that's cool.
yeah, we think they're awesome.
Yeah,
They're so
definitely.
cool.
Nice. So the single drops this next Friday, or yeah. What's are you also working on a music video for it? Because I know notice that's something you also like to do with it.
Yeah, we did a music video for not the last single, but the one before, called Saved. And that was a very fun little project. We thought it was a great idea to go down to the beach in Adelaide in the middle of winter. And now our winter doesn't get quite as cold as yours, but it was freezing. I think it was about 6 degrees, 7 degrees. So yeah, that was a great idea.
We're not doing one for this one, unfortunately, based on our last experience. No. But yeah, we're definitely looking forward to doing more music videos and creative things down the line.
Gotcha. I saw the last music video you did, and I was, that's always like a really interesting conversation to just have in general, because everything's moving to a more visual medium as it kind of stands with like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. But I also feel like there's a world where music videos are kind of dying off just because they're such big productions and they're very expensive and you don't really get much return. Whereas I'm starting to see a lot of musicians are going more towards like lyric videos, or if they're so inclined, they do like more stripped back acoustic versions in, a little bit more cost effective stuff. So I wasn't sure if that was something you were looking at, or if you would just kind of like the idea of having the MTV style music video and just kind of always having that presence. So
Yeah, I think like every muso wants to do a music video. Like I feel like it's on the bucket list for every artist.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is hard for independent artists to be able to fund, because you're funding your tours, you're funding your own recording, and for music videos on top of that, it's if you kind of really have to think about it and plan and go, well, what can we get out of this? But Sienna and I definitely find that when we don't love the whole social media aspect, like we love being creative and recording and getting our music out there, but it is definitely like, especially the last decade, has really had that push on like all of the different medias, and now that TikTok's like gone crazy, and we definitely find that it's not our strength. We don't love doing that type, like feeling like it's always expected of you to be on 100 different platforms and so much content, and so yeah, it's tricky as a muso. I think there's a lot of musicians out there that are really preaching, like, remember, you're a musician, you're not an influencer, and it's okay to just be that.
I also think it's really cool. Music videos are amazing because they're like a visual representation of your song, but I think it's also great to just leave it up to the listener's interpretation, because everyone's going to have their different version and connect to the story in different ways. So I think it's great to just leave it as it is sometimes.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Just kind of leaving it up to the interpretation of how people kind of interpret the song is also good. But then there's also a part of me growing up in the 90s watching MTV, and it's like, man, those music videos, there's some of them make no sense whatsoever, but they're amazing. So
yeah, definitely.
Ellie, you brought up something interesting about social media and not really liking the whole aspect of posting on social media and like all the different content, which is interesting because it feels like in this day and age, like you said that you were told that you're musicians, not necessarily influencers, but I feel like in this day and age, you almost have to be both,
Mhm.
because it's like everything is so driven by social media. What are you doing on TikTok? What are you doing on Instagram? What are you doing on, just like all these different things. And it could definitely be overwhelming. And I 100% agree with you. Like, yeah, I've recently just kind of taken a step back from like all my personal social medias. It's like I'll post on Live and Amplified, and that's about it, because like my brain just cannot handle, oh, hey, I have to tell my friends what I'm doing. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't even like doing it for Live and Amplified. Why am I going to tell on my personal pages? So it's definitely very taxing, but
Yeah.
it's that kind of like that fine line or that thin line where it's like, in this world, you kind of have to do it. And y'all are doing a really good job, like just from what I've
Thank
seen on
you.
your Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, just like keeping it engaging and all that stuff. But I 100% get where you're coming from, where it's like, all right, this is a lot. I don't
Mhm.
really enjoy it, but I'll do what I have to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just quite exhausting to have to come up with new ideas for new content and stuff all the time. But for emerging artists, especially in this day and age, that's kind of how they've grown their
Yeah.
audiences, especially through platforms like TikTok and Instagram and all that. But part of me just wants to be like Ed Sheeran and just when you're not doing anything, just get off
delete
for a year.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this day and age, it's kind of hard to do that. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that we still have to work on, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so heavily reliant on like, marketing yourself as an independent artist, because if you can't get that audience, they're not going to come to your shows. And, social media is the best tool to get it out to as many people as you can. So, and you really see results. Like we have a lot of friends that came off The Voice and have
Yeah.
pushed so hard on their socials. And just it's worked for them. Like now they're getting tens of thousands of streams because they've been able to have that reach to that many people. So it's definitely interesting how the music industry has changed from touring and doing as many shows as possible to see people
Yeah.
to just being able to have social media. And yeah, it's interesting. It's a weird job to have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of going back to just being like authentically who we were talking about it a little bit ago about the style bending in music, and just if you're influenced by this, that's like whatever. I think it almost plays the same way with your social media. Like if you're having a bad day, but you've got a new song to promote, okay, do a live. Hey, I'm having a bad day, but just be honest with your fans, your followers, and I think they really like respect that, because there's definitely been days during the pandemic where I was like super depressed because I hadn't been outside in 4 months because, it was super lockdown, all that fun stuff. And it's like, I'll just throw on Instagram Live. It's like, hey guys, I'm not doing too well, but I just wanted to jump on here and talk to you, and just kind of being authentic to your fans, followers, friends, family. I think that's the best way to kind of utilize social media.
Yeah, definitely, especially because there's so much content that isn't exactly real. It's kind of a bit fake. I
Yeah.
think being authentic really helps you connect with people more. And if you show them your true self, you find people who relate to you and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
appreciate that too. I know I definitely appreciate when someone's like, not completely made up and completely like you can kind of tell when
Yeah.
people are trying to do something different to the people that just sit in front of the camera and be quite open and genuine. And it's kind of like a breath of fresh air,
It's
really.
refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you brought up, or you got the new single dropping Friday, and then you mentioned that you have an EP, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you have an EP dropping in March. Are the three singles out? Were they leading to the EP, or is the EP brand new music, all new music?
So the 3 singles will be on the EP.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all kind of part of the same project. We recorded all of the tracks with Matt Fell. We recorded most of them in April, I think it was, in Tasmania. So that was a really cool experience. So yeah, they've all got kind of the same vibe. They're part of the same project. Yeah.
Gotcha. I just wanted to clarify that for anybody out there listening to make sure, like, because sometimes musicians, they'll release singles and they're just singles, that's all they are, and then they release an EP and it's like a completely different vibe. So just to kind of clarify that, will there
Mhm.
be new songs on it? Will you add another one or two songs on the EP to make?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
So it'll be, we haven't actually announced any of this yet. It will happen in the next couple of weeks. We've kind of told everyone at our live shows, but
Sneak peek.
a little exclusive. Yeah. So we're planning, the EP will be released on the 17th of March, and it'll have the 4 singles, and then it'll have an extra 3 tracks as well. So yeah, we're very excited to kind of have our original music out there, and this project, being our first kind of big release. Very, very excited, and we're very proud just to get it out there.
Yeah, and with singles, they're usually really upbeat and fun, so that's how we're releasing them. And then some of the tracks on the EP that aren't going to be released as singles, they're probably some of our favorite works because they're our most vulnerable and slower and kind of more interesting songs, I guess. So yeah, we're very excited to have this EP out.
Awesome. What so just kind of, since this is your first EP and like you're still fairly young going through the process of releasing music and stuff, what went into the thought process to pick out the songs for this EP?
That's
Were-
a tricky one. Yeah.
like let me rephrase it a little bit. Did you like specifically write music knowing, okay, we're gonna all put this to an EP, or were you just kind of writing music and it's like, oh hey, song A and C kind of work together, let's see if we could turn this into a little bit bigger project?
Yeah, I think we don't ever write with the thought in mind of actually releasing it. We don't go into a session being like, oh yeah, we're going to release this song. We kind of just write when inspiration hits us and it comes naturally. We don't really plan out anything. So these songs have just kind of come out of us and we've been like, hey, that's actually kind of a good song. And when we went to plan the EP, we were like, oh, these songs would kind of they're probably the best kind of ones that we've had so far. And one of them, it was so recent, and we realized the day before that we had an extra day in the studio and we could record one more song, so we hadn't planned to. And then Ella was like, oh, what about that one that you've kind of been working on? And I was like, oh yeah, that could be cool. So we sat down that night and wrote the bridge for it because it wasn't finished.
Yeah, wrote it the day before.
Yeah, and we went into the studio the next day and recorded it. So yeah, we don't really plan out the things, it just kind of happens.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's, and kind of talking about the songwriting process, how does it kind of work between the two of you? Is it, Sienna, you seem to talk a little bit more about the actual writing of the music. Do you kind of spearhead that and then Ella just kind of fills in, or how does that kind of work for y'all?
Definitely for this EP, Sienna wrote majority of the songs. She definitely, in the last couple years, probably since 2020, like really got into writing and just writes all the time, quite a bit more than I do. I actually study music at the Adelaide Conservatorium for uni, and I do a bit of songwriting there. And I find that a lot of my songs kind of go into like uni, and Sienna's songs kind of fit more for our duo thing. I definitely have a few songs, that I either co-wrote or I wrote on the EP. But yeah, our writing is interesting because I think people assume, as sisters, we just co-write everything. But because we see ourselves as such individual people, usually what happens is we actually pretty much write completely separate, and then we'll come together at the end to refine it and, get some feedback and work on the music side of things together. So
yeah, I feel like we always kind of have a specific idea of how the song's gonna go, and when someone else comes in and they don't exactly have the same thing, I think it's just better if we finish our own thoughts and then we come together. That's kind of how it's been working for us so far. Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. So obviously it's going to be a really busy week with the upcoming release of the single and then working towards the EP. So what's kind of running through your mind right now as you're kind of reaching the finish line for this section of your musical career, this project?
yeah, I honestly haven't really thought about it like that. But obviously this project has been over a year in preparation, and I think people don't realize sometimes that you might write a song and it might not actually get released until 5 years down the track, and it is a massive process.
Yeah.
But when you kind of get to the end of that, there's just such a big relief, and I guess just knowing that your music is out there and it's your project and something you created and you can be proud of it. And you might have millions of people listen, you might only have a couple thousand, but that's still, if one person can connect to our song, then we are so like that's the aim.
We've done our job,
So
yeah.
we've done our job. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So outside of music, Ella, you brought up earlier that people always kind of hound you. What do you guys do together when y'all need to like separate? And having a sister myself, there's those moments where it's like, yo, don't talk to me. Like, I don't, what do you do to kind of decompress? What are some of the hobbies you do when you're not playing music?
Yeah, I am really into sport. I play basketball and netball, and that kind of keeps me occupied. The other time I'm at school, I'm in year 12 this year, so last year, but yeah, I love doing sport, and that's kind of my release, I guess. What about you?
Yeah, I'm very music through and through. I teach music as well, to like primary school kids, guitar and voice, and it is one of the best jobs ever in the world. Especially when I can perform as well as teaching. And then I'll be finishing my last year of uni. So yeah, this is going to be a massive year with Sienna and I both kind of finishing our studies. And then next year, we plan to go full-time music together. And I mean, we're sisters, and you can't pretend that we don't have creative differences, because we definitely do. But I think the fact that we have this shared goal of really wanting to push our music career as far as it can go, it kind of, even if we fight, we'll always come back and realize like this is what we want to do.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that even though there is a significant age gap between the two of you, you're still kind of in sync with each other. Like with Ellie, you're both kind of finishing school at the same time. And even though Sienna's just kind of finishing high school, there's still always that if music just kind of becomes like, yeah, I'm good on music, I want to go pursue something else. College is always there. Like you could always go to college when you're 28. Like it's not a huge thing. So just kind of like the fact that you're, even with the age difference, you're still kind of in sync in like finishing up school, and you both want to like, hey, we're still young, we want to give this a full-time push and just kind of see what happens once we finish school. That's still really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
It worked out well.
Yeah, it definitely worked out well, and especially finishing our studies, we just kind of want to throw ourselves into it, I guess, because me not going to uni, I don't really have anything to fall back on per se. So just really going for it and doing as much as we can. Yeah, that's the plan.
She says she doesn't have anything to fall back on, but Sienna's actually also completed like a certificate 3 in makeup and beauty.
Yeah.
So she does have options. She's not just dropping out of school. We definitely just want to give it our best shot.
Yeah. And like I said, college is always there. Like university is always there. It's not like after 22, you still always have that opportunity if you want to go back to school or go to a trade school or cosmetology school, or like whatever it is. No, that's really cool. One of the things that we do with everybody that comes on the podcast is we play this fun little game if my phone decides it wants to open. It is called That's So Random. And I have a random question generator that I'm going to open up here, and we are going to just ask a few very random questions. Okay.
Right.
I'm not scared.
You're not scared? Don't. It's all right. It's not going to be that bad. So if you're ready, let's play That's So Random.
Yeah.
What is your favorite pair of shoes that you own?
Oh my gosh.
My Converse.
Your Converse?
Yeah.
No.
What?
Sienna and I are so into, we've got a massive collection of boots, like performance boots that go like all the way up to our knees. We just bought some super glitzy ones, and
yeah, I'd have to say my sparkly cowboy boots then.
Yeah, definitely boots. Probably the new ones. And honestly, if people stalked our Instagram page, it's probably just boots.
So yours are the knee-high sparklies.
The knee-high sparklies. They actually, we haven't worn them yet on stage, so
Nice. Awesome.
hopefully I don't fall over.
Nice. What is your guilty pleasure song that is currently on your playlist?
Oh, that's a really interesting
That's such a good question.
Like a song that you listen to that people wouldn't expect you to listen to.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, probably anything Hannah Montana.
that's good. That's good. I listen to a lot of Glee cast songs, and I'm that person who's like, oh, this Glee version is better than the original, which is so bad. But love Glee. Yeah.
Going to the Hannah Montana, for the longest time, I had Party in the USA on my playlist. And just recently I started like redoing my playlist, and I was like, yeah, I'm 35. Don't think I need this song on my playlist anymore.
Oh, it's such a banger.
It's one of those things where it's like, it was cool for a while there, and now it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm good on that one. So
Yeah.
all right, this one might be fun. What is the most pointless fight y'all have ever had against each other or towards each other?
Probably anything over like clothes, because Ella doesn't like to share.
Yeah, that's true.
What else? Oh, you eat all the food, and then I get angry at you.
I eat all the food.
Yeah.
I remember this one time, and this is like,
oh no,
it's quite funny, but we were in the backyard, and it was like Christmas, and we had like eggnog, and you wanted me to get you some more.
We were very young.
We were quite young, but
probably like
you wanted
6, 4.
This is like my earliest memory of us like fighting. I just remember we were down in the backyard and you wanted more eggnog and I wouldn't get it for you, so you like ditched the cup at me as hard as she could, and it got me straight on the nose.
That was in your room, not
it was a very good shot, but
yeah, that's how I got into basketball, I guess.
That's funny.
Don't mess with Sienna, she will come for you.
Yeah, fair enough. How late did you stay up last night?
Last night, not that late.
Probably like 12, accidentally. I was reading my book, kind of got into it.
I like to go to, I'm an early night person, which kind of sucks when you're a muso and you do late gigs. I always say over the mic, I'm like, guys, it's past my bedtime, so like
when you're 20 years old.
I'm 20, but I'm not, apart from music, I'm not really a party person. I think I went to bed at like 10, seriously, 10:30.
Oh gosh.
Something like that.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right. So you're dropped in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. What is your weapon of choice? Oh, did my internet?
You've watched
I've watched The Walking Dead.
Yeah, so what did they use? They all died.
They all die.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I know this is a controversial opinion. My partner loves the idea of the apocalypse. Like, he loves all the zombie shows, and he's like constantly like, if we had an apocalypse, like, I'd be prepared. I just know that like I usually wear glasses. I am not a competitive person. I'll be the sacrifice. So I'm not a good person to ask this question.
Surely you'd get like a shotgun or like a rifle, one of the, what are those called? I don't know. A gun that can fire lots of bullets, so you can just.
Yeah.
I would not live in a world like that, so I'd opt out.
Fair enough. And then I'm going to just ask one really random question. What is the secret to a good Tim Tam slam?
A what?
Tim
Tam slime?
Slam. Okay.
Slam?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We don't really do that. My friend actually does that. I think it's where you like
I have no idea what it
drink
is.
the milk through the Tim Tam. I don't.
Yeah,
actually
that's
know.
what the tea or the hot chocolate or the whatever, whatever it is. Yeah.
I have never tried that.
We've never actually done that. I just like my Tim Tams. Just
no, the weird way that we eat Tim Tams though, I always like bite the top. I do it in the layers, like bite the first layer off.
That's criminal. No, you got to eat it all together. It's just Tim Tams are the best.
But I want to try that. Thank you.
I thought it was like when I first started interviewing musicians from Australia when the pandemic first started, everybody would ask me if I've ever done a Tim Tam slam, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. And so I just thought it was like an Australian thing. Like, I knew what Tim Tams were, but I'd never had them because I could never find them. And then I went to the grocery store one day, and out of the corner, it was like, wait, are these the Tim Tams that everybody's been telling me I need to try? And so I grabbed like two of them. Like there was a mint one, and then there was just a regular chocolate one. But to me, they tasted just so stale. And everybody was like, no, you're just getting old ones because they got to, they were kind of explaining it to me. And I'm like, okay, I guess I got to go to Australia to get fresh Tim Tams or something.
Yeah,
So-
no, you do. They are
Yeah.
the most superior, like, chocolate biscuit.
Oh, they're so good.
They're
I
so
think we're probably the only Australians who don't actually do the Tim Tam Slam because yes,
Yeah.
it's a very popular thing in Australia. I can't believe you
Yeah.
haven't heard of it.
I
dude.
just live under a rock, I guess.
That's
I
fair
do.
enough.
Now that you've explained it, I know
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
But
Okay, fair enough. So that's so random. I think that one was probably one of the better That's So Randoms we played in a while. The app was being nice to us today, so that's good. But really appreciate y'all taking time to sit down and chat with us. It's Saturday afternoon for y'all, so I don't want to take up your entire day off. But for anybody that's listening that wants to listen to your music, interact with you on social, or just kind of see a show, just where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook,
Spotify,
Spotify,
YouTube.
TikTok, all the things. Just if you look up Ella and Sienna
We'll
Music.
say it slowly because Sienna.
Sorry,
So it's
I like to-
Ella and Sienna.
Yeah.
Yes, and you'll find. I'm sure they'll find it. Ella
If you
and
just
Sienna.
search that on any platform, we're probably on it.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, once again, thank you all so much. And before we wrap this up, what's one piece of advice you have for all the young musicians out there?
Just keep
Work
practicing.
your butt off. Just absolutely work your butt off. Say yes to every opportunity and never give up.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you all so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. Glad we were able to get this to work. I know with the time difference and then school, y'all still being in school and stuff, it's not always the easiest to kind of pull off, but I'm glad we were able to make it work. You're all welcome back on anytime. So feel free to reach out, or, if I see you promoting something, we'll definitely try and get you back on. So once again,
thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. If you're not following Live and Amplified, liveandamplified.net, you can get all our socials and all that fun stuff. I try and make it as easy as possible because we weren't lucky enough to get the same handle for all our social medias. But once again, thank you all for hanging out. We will see you all next week. All right. Do that. Cool. Oh, no.